Good morning. Thank you for tuning in and listening wherever you might be doing so from around the globe. This is episode 37 of our ongoing podcast series, The Anatomy of Modern Romance Scams. I'm Michael B., and once again, I'll be your host. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know we spend our time looking beyond the obvious parts of romance scams. We look beyond the money. We look beyond the cryptocurrency, the fake photographs, and look at how these crimes actually work. And today we're going to go somewhere we haven't quite gone before. But first, I want to say thank you. I told you for a while that this podcast is coming close to 2,000 downloads. We've surpassed that, and that's just on one channel. That's just on Buzzsprout. That doesn't include Spotify or some of the other channels. When I started doing this, the objective was pretty simple. Just get the message out. Help somebody recognize what is happening before they lose their money, their relationships, risk their retirement, or just lose pieces of themselves. 2,000 plus downloads tells me the message is moving. So thank you very much. If you've listened, shared an episode with somebody, sent it to a family member, or told somebody about this podcast, you're helping get the message out. Please keep doing it. Today we're going to talk about one of the most important things we've discussed. I'm excited to share this information with you. We've touched on it lightly, but here it is in more depth. We've spent 36 episodes talking about what scammers do to us. Today I want to talk about what happens inside when they do it. I've been reading some fascinating research about the biology of human relationships, especially related to romance scams. And it caused me to look at the Romance Scam Playbook differently. We've talked about the psychology, the grooming, attachment, manipulation. We've even touched on things like dopamine. But I don't think we put all the pieces together. Today we will. Because the playbook may be doing something much more fundamental than simply convincing somebody to believe a lie. It may be exploiting the same biological systems that help human beings form real relationships. Once we understand that, some things that seem completely irrational about romance scams begins to make a hell of a lot more sense. Let's introduce Jessica. Jessica meets someone online. Let's call him David. David doesn't ask Jessica for money. He doesn't mention cryptocurrency. He doesn't have an emergency. He doesn't send her an investment opportunity. He simply says, "Good morning." Then good morning becomes, "Good morning, beautiful." That's it. Tomorrow, he does that again. "Good morning, beautiful." The next morning, "I woke up thinking about you." Then it goes deeper. "How was your day?" "I miss you." "Good night, sweetheart." Psychologically, something is happening. What is that? Jessica starts to feel noticed. She feels attractive, important. She feels wanted. But something else is happening too. Her brain is responding. Dopamine is frequently called the brain's reward chemical. That's not quite accurate. It's also deeply involved in motivation, learning, wanting, and the anticipation of rewards. And anticipation matters enormously here. Jessica wakes up. She looks at her phone. There's David. Tomorrow morning, she looks again. There's David. Again, and again, and again. And eventually, something subtle changes. Jessica isn't merely enjoying David's messages, she's anticipating them. Her brain has begun learning that the notification on the phone may bring something emotionally rewarding. David. Attention, affection, connection. Now suppose David doesn't message tomorrow. 8 o'clock. Nothing. 9 o'clock. Nothing. Jessica checks the phone. 10 o'clock. Nothing. What's wrong? Did I say something? Is David okay? Then at noon. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Crazy morning. I've missed you. What does Jessica feel? Relief. Think about what just occurred. There was anticipation, then uncertainty, stress, return, relief, reward. And David can do it again and again and again. Now something else develops. David takes it to the next level. He starts asking Jessica about her life, her childhood, her marriage, if she's married, her fears, regrets, dreams. He remembers everything. And he tells her that. You can tell me anything. And all of a sudden, Jessica begins revealing things she hasn't told anybody in years. And David responds, I understand you. I love you. Psychologically, Jessica is developing trust and intimacy. But once again, biology isn't sitting on the sidelines. Oxytocin is often called the trust hormone, although the actual science is considerably more complicated. It's involved in social bonding and how we process socially important information. The important point isn't that David types a sentence and Jessica gets some predictable squirt of oxytocin. Human biology doesn't work that simply. The point is that Jessica is experiencing the behaviors human beings normally associate with closeness, trust, intimacy, and attachment. Her nervous system doesn't know David is a fake. It doesn't realize the photographs are stolen. It doesn't know biography was manufactured. It doesn't know whether David is one criminal or 5 people working shifts. The deception is artificial. Jessica's experience of that is not. And here's where the research gets really interesting. Researchers studying intense romantic love have found that it activates dopamine-rich regions in the brain's reward system, including areas also involved in drug and behavioral addictions. Researchers Helen Fisher and her colleagues have even proposed that intense romantic love can behave like a natural addiction. They describe characteristics including euphoria, craving, dependence, withdrawal, relapse. Think about that for a moment. I'm not telling you that falling in love is the same thing as injecting heroin. It's not. And I'm not telling you that every romance scam victim becomes clinically addicted to a scammer. They don't. We don't have research establishing that. What I am trying to say is something much more important. The human systems involved in romantic attachments overlap with some of the same reward systems involved in addiction. Now look at the playbook again. Suddenly, it's not just about psychology. David disappears. Jessica wants him back. David returns. Relief. David showers her with affection. Reward. David withdraws. Stress. David returns. Relief. Then one afternoon, hey Jessica, something terrible has happened. And now another biological system enters the picture. Cortisol and adrenaline. The body's stress response. David is injured or stranded, or his bank account has been frozen, or his business is collapsing. There is always a story. I need surgery. Whatever the story is, Jessica perceives someone she cares about, maybe even loves, is in danger. Her body responds to that perceived threat. Stress can narrow attention hugely. Urgency can make careful, complex decision-making much more difficult. And David adds pressure. I don't know who else I can trust. Responsibility. Please don't tell anybody. Secrecy. I need to fix this tonight. Urgency. And then perhaps, I thought you loved me. Introducing fear of losing that relationship. The scammers now combine attachment with stress. And this is what I think has been missing. And that's something very important about the playbook. We've always looked at the playbook as a collection of tactics, mirroring, attention, love bombing, creating isolation, introducing secrecy, creating urgency and fear, withdrawal, reassurance. But what if these aren't merely tactics? What if they're construction tools? What are they building? I believe they're building 4 things. And I'm going to call them the 4 pillars of a romance scam. Pillar 1, attachment. A scammer creates connection, attention, affection, validation, intimacy, a shared future. Psychologically, Jessica begins falling in love. Biologically, normal systems involving reward, anticipation, motivation, social bonding are participating in that experience. The stranger becomes someone who matters. Now notice, I said psychological and biological systems are both in play. Pillar 2, dependency. Now the relationship becomes part of Jessica's daily emotional life. Those morning messages, those nighttime messages, those messages during the day, reassurance, companionship, attention. Have you eaten today, honey? Hope. David is there. Jessica feels good. When David disappears, something feels wrong. When he returns, she feels relief. The relationship has moved from, I enjoy talking to him, toward, I really need this relationship in my life. Psychology and biology are now reinforcing one another. Pillar 3, control. Now the scammer can use what the first two pillars have built: fear, urgency, secrecy, guilt, withdrawal, threatened loss, crises. The criminal doesn't physically control Jessica. He manipulates the emotional and psychological states Jessica has learned to associate with the relationship. Create distress, offer relief, withdraw affection, restore affection, create fear of losing the relationship, offer reassurance. The playbook becomes a control system. It's not just about how it happens. That's an important distinction to keep in mind. The fourth pillar I may call override. And this may be one of the most difficult parts for families to understand. Jessica's daughter discovers David's photograph on another website. She shows it to Jessica. Mom, he's fake. The bank warns her. Her friends warn her. The evidence is right there. Logic says, stop. It's screaming, stop. But logic isn't competing with a photograph anymore. It's competing with months of attachment, anticipation, rewards, routine, fear, relief, hope, intimacy, and emotional attachment. And all those learned responses associated with who? With David. That's what I call override. The victim may actually see contradictory information, but attachment has become powerful enough that the information doesn't produce the behavior outsiders expect. That's the heart of what I previously called the attachment override model. And now we're beginning to understand more about what may be underneath that. And this part is personal. I've been asked a question, and I think many victims have probably been asked. If you suspected something was wrong, why didn't you stop? For a long time, I could explain part of the answer. I understood the psychological attachment. I understood the manipulation. I understood the hope. I understood that I didn't want the person I cared about to be a lie. But I couldn't explain the rest of it. Why it was so difficult to get out of it. Because I didn't understand what months of anticipation, reward, attachment, stress, and relief may have been doing biologically as well as psychologically. I didn't understand that at the time. I thought I was making decisions about a relationship. I didn't understand what that relationship may have been doing inside of me. And here's something I understand now that I didn't understand then. Suspicion and detachment are not the same thing. You can expect something is wrong and still be powerfully attached to the person you desperately hope isn't lying to you. Knowing something intellectually does not instantly extinguish attachment. It doesn't instantly eliminate anticipation, or learned reward, or fear, or hope, or the desire for relief. So when somebody outside the relationship says, but you knew, maybe the answer is, yes, part of me did. But knowing something may be wrong and being able to emotionally detach from it, they're two very different things. That doesn't mean biology removed my ability to make decisions. It doesn't remove the responsibility for the decisions I made, but it helps me understand why stopping was so much harder than it appeared from outside the relationship. And maybe it can help families understand that too. Because the question isn't simply, why didn't you see it? Sometimes the victims do see it. The better question may be, what had already been built that made acting on what you saw so incredibly difficult? And now I think we have part of that answer. Look at those 4 pillars again: attachment, dependency, control, override. Notice what's missing: the ask for money, cryptocurrency, gift cards, wire transfers, fake investment platforms. Those aren't pillars. Those are extraction mechanisms. By the time the criminal asks for $10,000, the important work may have already been happening. It may already be complete, and it probably is. What's the work? Building that relationship. And that changes something fundamental about scam prevention. For years, we've taught people to recognize scams by looking for external red flags. Boy, do they flap. Don't send cryptocurrency to strangers. Don't click suspicious links. Do not send gift cards. Don't wire money to somebody you've never met. That's all great advice. But here's the problem. By the time Jessica receives the suspicious request, Jessica may no longer perceive David as a stranger. He's not a threat. He's part of her life. She looks forward to speaking with him. She cares about him. That's the whole damn point. We've been teaching people how to recognize the extraction, but we also need to teach people how to recognize the construction. So maybe prevention needs another set of questions. Not just, is this person asking me for money, but am I checking my phone constantly? Why do I feel anxious when this person disappears? Why do I feel enormous relief when they return? Why is someone I've never met become so important to me so quickly? Why am I sharing things with this individual that I don't share with people I've known for years? Why am I keeping this relationship secret? And why am I afraid of losing someone I've never actually met? Maybe most importantly, understanding what is happening inside me. Now, those feelings don't prove somebody is a scammer, but real relationships create many of the same feelings. That's precisely the problem. The criminal is imitating the experiences associated with a real relationship. And this brings me back to something I've said before. The person is fictional. The feelings, the relationship, the emotions, the love was not. I understood that psychologically when I first said it. I understood that. I understand it differently now. The criminal can fabricate the identity, fabricate the photograph, fabricate the history, the emergency, and the future. But the victim's brain and body are responding to experiences that feel real. Deception is fake, the human response is real. And that may be one of the most important reasons these relationships become so incredibly difficult to break. There's an excellent article from fightcybercrime.org that started me down this rabbit hole. It's about brain chemistry and cybercrime, including dopamine, oxytocin, cortisol, and adrenaline. I'm putting the article of the episode in the description because I want you to read it for yourself. I'm also going to include information about the romantic love research because this isn't something I want you to simply take my word for. This has changed the way I think about romance scams because awareness of the playbook is important, but awareness alone may not be adequate once the playbook has succeeded in creating a powerful attachment. The earlier we recognize the construction, the better chance we have of stopping the extraction. So learn the red flags, but also learn something else. Learn yourself. Recognize when someone you've never met is beginning to occupy an extraordinarily amount of your emotional life. Recognize the anticipation. Recognize the dependency. Recognize fear. Recognize relief. And understand that none of those responses mean you're stupid or weak. They mean you're human. And human biology is exactly what the playbook is designed to exploit. That is so critical. Human biology is exactly what the playbook is designed to exploit. I hope that really levels the playing field. I hope that really creates an understanding of why your loved one, why Jessica can't see it, why she has such a difficult time backing out of it, why she has a difficult time letting go. I hope that now creates an understanding. Yes, there's a psychological aspect to this. Of course there is, definitely. But there's also a biological undercurrent that plays an extremely important role. And between the two of them, it creates an attachment that is extremely difficult to break, extremely difficult to let go of. Several of you have shared your experiences. Several of those experiences fit this particular podcast. I hope it has helped your understanding. I hope you will pass it on to members of your family who have the same questions, the same concerns, and the same frustrations. Until next time, stay aware, stay protected, follow the rule book, add to it, make it yours. Always, always stay safe. I'm Mark B.